So right now, there is $500 billion being mobilized to build basically the largest digital brain in human history.
Yeah, $500 billion. It's massive.
Right. But there is this really massive problem with it. The physical planet that it's being built on is quite literally running out of the water needed to cool it down.
Which is just wild to think about.
It really is.
Yeah.
So welcome to today's deep dive for Tuesday, August 11, 2026. We are looking at the 6 a.m. news brief from the Daily Tech Reader for you today.
And, at first glance, this stack of sources looks like just a totally chaotic mix.
Oh, completely.
You've got Middle East geopolitics, unprecedented artificial intelligence funding, and extreme weather reports.
Yeah, but our mission today for this deep dive is to reveal the hidden narrative that actually connects all of them for you. We are witnessing this massive, unavoidable collision between our physical world.
Like shipping lanes and power grids.
Exactly. Our shipping lanes, our grids, even our basic drinking water colliding with our just relentless digital ambitions.
It is, I'd say it's the defining tension of our time right now.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I think we need to start with the physical world first.
Right. You have to. We tend to think of the digital world as weightless,
Yeah, the cloud.
Exactly. The cloud, algorithms, AI, they sound invisible, but the reality is those digital ambitions are incredibly heavy.
They need steel, concrete, electricity.
And water. Vast amounts of water. And they are colliding with the physical planet that is currently just, stretched to its absolute breaking point.
Right. So to understand that digital strain, we really have to look at the physical strain first. And we are starting with what is currently probably the most critical geopolitical chokehold on the map.
The Strait of Hormuz?
The Strait of Hormuz. And the brief provides this startling statistic. On Monday, traffic through that strait dropped to just 6 vessels. Six. And just for context, before the war, this exact same strait saw 130 to 140 vessels a day.
Yeah, that is a jaw-dropping plunge.
And because of that sudden constriction, oil exports through the strait just plummeted. They went from 4.4 million barrels per day last week down to roughly 3 million.
Which, you were talking about a fundamental artery of global energy just clamping shut.
Yeah.
And the mechanism driving this isn't even a physical blockade, right? It is a diplomatic stalemate that is just completely frozen in place.
Right. And looking at the reports, partially here, both sides have established very firm competing demands.
Yes.
So President Trump is demanding compensation from Iran. Meanwhile, Tehran is demanding payment covering damages from American and Israeli strikes.
Yeah, they are miles apart.
Completely. Iran maintains that unrestricted passage through the strait requires sanctions relief, released assets, compensation, and an end to military pressure.
And then on the other side, Washington states it will lift its blockade of Iranian ports only after normal commercial shipping resumes.
So it's just a complete gridlock over these claims.
It is. And the global markets are processing this absolute diplomatic deterioration in real time.
Yeah, and we're seeing the cost of that.
Exactly. It has an immediate, measurable cost. Because of these fading hopes for an agreement, Brent crude jumped roughly 5% over just 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah, sitting at around $89.64 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate hit $84.04.
So the market is panicking.
The market is pricing in the fear that these severely constrained energy supplies are not just some short-term blip. It's a persistent new reality.
It's like the global economy's windpipe. If a windpipe shrinks from taking 140 breaths a day down to just 6, the whole body starts to panic.
That's a great way to put it.
The oxygen or, the energy just isn't getting to the muscles. And the domestic reaction here in the U.S. is just a perfect example of how panic creates logistical chaos.
Oh, the Jones Act waiver?
Yes. To keep domestic fuel and commodity deliveries flowing, the White House just extended the Jones Act waiver for 90 days.
And for anyone who doesn't track maritime law, the Jones Act normally requires goods shipped between U.S. ports to be transported on ships that are U.S.-built, U.S.-owned, and operated by U.S. citizens.
Right.
Waiving it allows foreign-flagged vessels to step in and move fuel, say, from Texas refineries up to New Jersey.
Which sounds like a good solution on paper.
On paper, yeah. But the waiver process itself introduces a massive new bottleneck.
Because it is no longer a blanket exemption.
Exactly.
The brief notes that every single foreign flag voyage between American ports now requires individual approval.
Which means replacing a seamless global shipping flow with localized bureaucracy.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Right. Every voyage now requires bespoke legal and compliance reviews. Port authorities, logistics companies, legal teams, they all have to manually sign off on cargo transfers that used to just happen automatically.
So you are attempting to solve a physical supply shortage by creating this monumental bureaucratic traffic jam.
You're just moving the bottleneck from the water to the paperwork.
Yeah. And this energy constriction is happening at the exact moment the tech world is demanding an unprecedented surge in new power.
Which is the real collision here.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting. The AI industry is trying to build the biggest infrastructure expansion we have ever seen. It's like building the Transcontinental Railroad, but for data.
Oh, completely.
NVIDIA is partnering with major financial institutions to back up to $500 billion in AI infrastructure funding.
$500 billion.
$500 billion.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the AI boom has officially outgrown standard corporate capital budgets.
Yeah, they can't just pay cash anymore.
Right. Tech companies, even with their massive cash reserves, they just cannot fund this entirely out of their own pockets anymore.
So where does it come from?
The scale of investment is moving directly into global debt and equity markets. We saw Intel just raise $20 billion in an expanded stock offering.
$20 billion.
Yeah. And the gravity of this spending is so massive, it is actually altering national economies. Singapore raised its 2026 economic growth forecast specifically because of stronger than expected investments tied to global AI logistics and manufacturing.
Okay, I have to push back here for a second.
Go for it.
Because this $500 billion NVIDIA build-out sounds terrifyingly familiar to me.
The dot-com boom.
Yes. Isn't this exactly what happened with the fiber optic boom in the late 90s? We overbuilt the physical infrastructure based on these astronomical revenue projections. Then the bubble burst, companies went bankrupt, but society ultimately got cheap internet out of the ashes.
That's the popular comparison, sure.
Right. And the sources note bond investors are actually responding cautiously because of the leverage involved here. So why is this massive AI debt pile any more dangerous than the telecoms crash?
Well, the difference lies in the ongoing physical cost of the infrastructure and the shifting regulatory environment.
Okay, how so?
A fiber optic cable, once it's laid in the ground, it requires very little energy to maintain.
Right. It just sits there.
Exactly. But a massive AI data center requires continuous, staggering amounts of electricity and water to function.
Oh, I see.
And to finance this build-out, the regulatory guardrails are actually being removed. The SEC just exempted certain data center bonds from important securitization requirements.
Wait, how does that exemption actually work mechanically? Like, what does that mean?
So securitization is usually like checking the foundation of a house before you sell it to a buyer. You bundle the risks, you disclose the tenant contracts, and you prove the structural integrity of the investment.
Makes sense.
Right. But by exempting these data center bonds, the SEC is essentially letting companies sell the house based on a sketch of the blueprint.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it simplifies the financing process to get the capital flowing faster. But without those strict requirements, bondholders are buying naked risk.
Naked risk.
Yeah. If a data center developer cannot secure the massive electricity contracts they need, or if an AI startup defaults on its lease because its models didn't generate enough revenue, that blueprint catches fire. And the bondholders are left holding the ashes.
And the scale of the power required is what makes those blueprints so fragile, right?
Exactly.
Like looking at the brief, Meta alone is pushing toward 14 gigawatts of total computing capacity next year.
14 gigawatts.
Just to put that in perspective for you listening, 1 gigawatt can power roughly 750,000 homes.
So we're talking about the power equivalent of several major cities.
Continuous power. Just for one company's computing needs.
And that infrastructure isn't just, plugging a server into a wall. Generating and transmitting 14 gigawatts requires building new substations, laying high-voltage transmission lines, and securing massive cooling towers just to keep the servers from melting.
Which exposes the terrifying paradox at the center of this deep dive today.
The climate data.
Yeah. These tech companies are financing and planning for 14 gigawatts of new continuous power consumption, while the actual physical planet is overheating and stressing our existing power grids to their absolute breaking point.
It's a disaster waiting to happen.
July 2026 was officially the hottest month ever recorded in the contiguous U.S. in 132 years of observations.
132 years.
The national average temperature hit 76.9 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 3.3 degrees above the 20th century average. It even broke the infamous 1936 record by 0.8 degrees.
Which is significant. Breaking a record set during the height of the Dust Bowl is a profound signal of systemic atmospheric distress.
Yeah.
But this isn't just a slow, uniform warming. We are seeing the physical breakdown of normal weather patterns.
It is extreme, erratic, localized whiplash. It's less like global warming and more like a kink in a garden hose.
I like that analogy.
Right. The jet stream, the high-altitude wind that normally pushes weather systems from west to east, it's stalling out. So instead of a storm moving through a region in a day, it just parks there.
And that stalling mechanism explains the extreme divergence in the data we're seeing. Parts of eastern New York just saw nearly 12 inches of rain and severe flash flooding because a low-pressure system simply stopped moving.
Just parked right over them.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the dry part of that kinked hose parked a high-pressure ridge over England, leaving nearly 3/4 of the country in an official drought.
And the statistics from England are wild. Their reservoirs saw the steepest July decline in 30 years. Only 14% of English rivers currently have normal water levels.
And this raises an important question.
Okay.
Connect that English drought directly back to the $500 billion AI infrastructure build-out. How can utilities provide the new power generation and the massive water resources required to cool those tech expansion centers when the rivers are literally running dry?
Okay.
Right. You have local grids that can barely keep the lights on during a heat wave today being asked to support gigawatts of new continuous demand tomorrow.
And this physical-digital collision isn't just happening in boardrooms or upper layers of the atmosphere. It trickles down violently to human physiology and to daily life.
Oh, absolutely.
The brief highlights a rolling public health emergency caused by persistent warm nights.
The mechanism of nighttime heat is particularly devastating to the human body. Your cardiovascular system actually has to pump blood to the skin to release core heat.
Right, to cool you down.
Yeah, the body relies on nocturnal cooling periods to rest the heart and reset. When the ambient air stays at like 76 degrees through the night, that core heat cannot escape.
So your heart just keeps working.
Exactly. It's a sustained physical trauma resulting in spikes in heat exhaustion and cardiovascular stress, especially for older adults and anyone without dependable air conditioning.
I mean, what stands out to you in all this when you look at this from the outside? Living in 2026 feels less like a functioning society and more like an obstacle course.
Oh, completely.
Your baseline physical stress is higher because of the heat, then your supply chains crack. We currently have a multi-state cyclosporiasis outbreak linked to contaminated lettuce affecting 15 states.
Which has already caused 2 deaths.
Right. And simultaneously, the U.S. is experiencing its highest measles total in decades, primarily among the unvaccinated. Public health resources are stretched incredibly thin, dealing with everything from flash floods to contaminated water to infectious diseases.
And that compounding stress changes macro-human behavior. Like, because of that historic drought in England, the Chessington theme park was forced to temporarily close.
A theme park just closed.
They literally did not have enough water to safely operate the facility.
Wow.
Event organizers across the board are heavily modifying operations. Hosting an outdoor event now mandates extensive shade structures, dedicated cooling areas, and emergency medical assistance just to meet safety baselines.
And that forced shift indoors isn't just an inconvenience, it is a massive behavioral driver.
Yeah.
When people are trapped inside by 76-degree nights, screen time spikes.
Oh, big time.
Which directly accelerates the exact AI consumer demand driving that $500 billion infrastructure build we were just talking about.
It's a massive feedback loop. As human interaction moves increasingly behind screens to avoid a hostile physical environment, artificial intelligence becomes the ultimate gatekeeper. The brief notes how retailers are desperately optimizing their product data just to be seen by AI conversational assistants.
But aren't retailers giving up the ghost by letting AI curate the shopping experience? Like, they want the visibility, sure, but they are terrified of surrendering control.
Oh, they are.
They don't want the AI platform to own the customer information or intermediate the actual transaction.
But they are fighting for survival in a new paradigm. The AI is no longer just answering search queries, it is curating reality.
Curating reality.
Yeah. If you ask an assistant to find a product, that AI decides what exists and what doesn't.
That's terrifying.
And this integration is happening at a massive scale, regardless of geopolitical borders. Apple is now allowing eligible Mac users in mainland China to connect Alibaba's massive Qwen service directly to Siri and writing tools.
And the scale of that integration is staggering. Alibaba's Qwen 3.8 Max model has 2.4 trillion parameters.
2.4 trillion.
Yeah, and a parameter is essentially a synthetic neural connection. Running an AI model with 2.4 trillion connections requires vast, continuous compute power. Connecting that level of processing directly to the Apple ecosystem in China shows how regional tech partnerships are altering device operations globally.
Which again cycles right back to the demand for more data centers, more power, and more cooling.
It never ends.
Yeah.
And the digital landscape is expanding at the exact moment it is becoming more hostile. Cybersecurity teams are essentially preparing for a new era of automated warfare.
Right. They're gearing up for advanced AI models that can accelerate network reconnaissance and exploitation.
The brief even mentions OpenAI actually paused portions of their Project Astra while researchers evaluate its practical, offensive cyber attack behavior.
Yeah, they had to hit the brakes.
Over 1,100 tech employees are calling for an American-backed international effort just to manage the risks of these advanced models.
Same precedent.
So the physical environment is actively hostile, and the digital environment is arming itself. Where does someone even find stability in a job market going through this kind of transition?
Well, the ultimate durable career advantage right now is the ability to coordinate across financial, technical, and physical systems.
Because everything is connected now.
Everything. Every single profession is being forced to adapt. Emergency managers are now frontline workers dealing with flash floods and prolonged heat on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Outdoor employers are radically adjusting schedules with mandated hydration protocols. The professionals who will thrive in this environment are the cross-disciplinary synthesizers.
I love that term.
The people who understand how a data center's trillion-parameter compute requirements impact a local utility's water usage and how that subsequent water shortage affects municipal bond ratings.
So we are living in a moment where incredibly abstract systems are having immediate, highly disruptive physical consequences.
Very physical.
A diplomatic standoff over sanctions in the Middle East chokes the Strait of Hormuz from 140 ships down to 6, which triggers a localized bureaucratic nightmare in U.S. ports through Jones Act waivers, which then drives up the cost of fuel.
And at the exact same time,
The desire for a smarter digital assistant drives a $500 billion debt-leveraged infrastructure boom that threatens to drain local power grids while we suffer through the hottest July in 132 years.
And you know, taking the time to connect those mechanical dots is the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed.
It really is.
You stop seeing isolated, chaotic events. You realize that knowing the mechanism of SEC bond securitization actually explains the impending strain on your local power grid. You start seeing the actual machinery of how the modern world functions.
And that brings us to a final thought for you to mull over long after this deep dive ends. We know the SEC is loosening rules for data center bonds, encouraging this massive flood of capital to build AI infrastructure.
Right.
And we know that atmospheric stalling is causing record-breaking droughts so severe they are shutting down theme parks in places like England.
Yeah.
So what happens in the very near future when a local municipality is forced to make a choice? What happens when a town has to decide between allocating its dwindling, drought-stricken water supply to cool a highly leveraged AI data center or providing basic drinking water to its own residents?
That's the real question.
Because when you look at how fast the digital world is colliding with the physical one, that choice isn't science fiction. It is on the schedule. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep connecting the dots and always keep questioning the world around you.